Okay, this bat feels warped, so I'm gonna switch it. Because it's not sitting flat. Yep, it's warped. No bueno. There we go. Alrighty, start again. If this bowl had a smaller opening and fit directly on the wheel head, I would just wet the rim and wet the wheel head, and it would stick directly to it, and then I wouldn't need any lugs. And you can see that is not centered. Nope. So, tempted to just go for it, but that'll come back and bite you in the ass later. It's better to take your time and center it correctly the first time. There we go. Okay, the way I like to trim is, the first thing I like to do is flatten this and make sure it's perfectly level, because that's what I'm going to be anchoring my hand to. I don't want my hand moving up and down while it's anchoring. So the way I do that is I just start with little concentric circles, very close to each other. And what that makes little valleys that are the same depth. And those little valleys are on center. And the little mountains aren't. But then I'll come back and cut all the little mountains off. And then I'll have that level playing field. And I won't move my tool to the next valley until I feel like it's really not moving. You can see it's starting to get a little more wobbly now. Now I'll come back here. That's pretty flat, and I'm not concerned about this part because I'm going to be cutting that off. So then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put a gentle guideline here where I'm going to want the foot ring. That's a little narrow, so I'll come about right there. That's just letting me know, don't go in there. So now I'm just going to start taking this off. Again, in the beginning, I just like taking little bites until I can really make sure things are centered. And so I can keep everything nice and smooth and on center. Sticking with those concentric circles. And I really don't need to take anything off of here. I assessed all of that before I put it on the wheel. Then I look at the profile and see that I am going to be able to bring this in a little more. I do like kind of a nice narrow foot ring on these bowls. I think it's pretty. Now I'll smooth out those concentric circle lines. And then I feel if I need to kind of just do a quick little look-see on the rest of that. Now I'm going to kind of take out some of this, and again, with my concentric lines, just helps me get started to keep everything on center. And I'll just keep doing that until I get to the foot ring. I stop when I get to the width. Don't want to go past here. I'll clean this and this up at the very end. Come and take the tops off. Tap to hear the thickness. I can still take more. And now that I know that's flat, I can just go across. And I know my bottom is kind of curved, so I can take more out of here than here. This bowl is pretty perfect as far as the trimming goes. The consistency. I usually let these porcelain big bowls dry at least 48 hours, because if you think they feel like they're ready to trim, they can get a skin on them and the skin feels dry. But then when you start trimming, you hit almost bag clay consistency, and that's way, way too soft for trimming. And I'd rather trim these pieces too dry than too wet. Because too wet, they get gummy, soft, warp, all of that. I'm listening for kind of a reverberation sound instead of a dull thud. You probably can't hear it, but I'm getting there. And this bowl, I didn't give myself a whole lot to work with as far as depth. So what I sometimes do is I stop and I just check to make sure that this isn't higher than here. And it's not, so I'm okay. Because I like to be able to glaze that. I really like this little tool to get really tight and clean. Now for the final. I like putting a little curve in my foot rings, mainly because it's a lot easier to hold on to them when you're glazing, but also when you're using them. Like if these are, say, smaller soup bowls or something, and you're holding them in your hands, they're just a lot nicer to hang on to, and they don't slip. Okay, I think that's probably done. And to turn this, I won't pick it up because that'll warp the whole thing if I'm not careful. So I always just flip them. There you go. Oh, good. That feels nice.